podcast listeners love their podcasts. So if you can get in front of those podcast listeners, then you will gain visibility and connect with potential clients. So that's something you definitely want to try to do. And I'm going to explain to you how you can do that. My name is Nicole Abboud of AbboudMedia.com. And what we do is we help lawyers and clients connect better. And we do that using two mediums, videos and podcasts. So we're a full production company. And aside from having my own podcast and getting pitched pretty frequently by other people who want to be on the show, I actually help my clients pitch themselves to be on other podcasts as well. So I know a little bit about just the right way to pitch yourself and get in front of an audience on someone else's show. So today I want to share with you guys just 3 simple tips, some good things to remember when you want to pitch yourself to a potential podcaster and be a guest on their show so you can get in front of their listeners and help their listeners out as well. But before I tell you guys these tips, you're probably wondering, why should I even care? Why do I want to be someone's guest on their podcast? Well, aside from the fact that podcast listeners can be some of the most loyal fans, the most loyal listeners, and will love a guest and whatever it is that they're saying and what they have to offer, if they love the host for the most part. Being a guest on podcast shows will gain you a lot of exposure. Because there are so many people listening to podcasts, about 67 million Americans listen to podcasts every month. So if you can be a guest on someone's show, you can get in front of a good amount of those listeners. And that's something that's good for you, that's good for your practice, good for your brand. So that's just one small reason to even consider wanting to be a guest on a show. And even though I help my clients by setting up their own shows, even if you're not ready to commit to launching your own podcast, there's no reason why you can't take advantage of other shows that are already existing and being a guest on theirs. So what are some things to remember when you're pitching yourself? The first thing to do, the first thing to remember is to research. So research the shows you want to be on. Now, if you are a podcast listener currently, then maybe you already have some shows that you really like, that you enjoy listening to every week, that you know about, you're familiar with. And if this is the type of show that you think you'd be a great guest on, then that's a great place to start, right? So you don't have to do that much research for the shows that you already listen to and love. But if you are trying to spread out and look into shows that you don't regularly listen to, then you want to research them, right? So you want to look up what type of content the podcast host features on their show. So what type of guests do they have on? Do they have guests on at all, right? Because if you're trying to pitch yourself to a show that doesn't have guests on, well, not only will it be useless, but they're going to know that you didn't really listen. You didn't do your research very well, because you would have known had you just listened to a few episodes that they don't have guests on. So research the show you want to be on. Get a feel for the topics, the type of guests, and just the structure of the show before you pitch yourself. The second thing you want to do is prepare some talking points. So when you are trying to pitch yourself, you're not just going to reach out to the podcast host or producer saying, I want to be on your show, let me on. Obviously, that's not going to work. What you do want to do is present yourself in such a way that provides the podcast host or the producer a glimpse into who you are and what it is that you have to offer. So prepare some talking points, maybe 4 to 5 points that highlight what it is that you know and what topics it is that you can discuss. So what topics are you knowledgeable about? And you know that audience, that podcast, that show's audience will want to hear. So what's beneficial for them? What's going to help them? And of course, what's something that you know to talk about? So prepare just some bullet points of what it is that you can talk about if you go on their show, right? So it's not just because you're a good person, it's because you know this, and this. You are an expert in this area. And so whatever it is that you can talk about, package that into a few bullet points. Now, the third thing that you're going to want to do when you are pitching yourself to be a guest on another podcaster's show is you'll want to actually finally reach out, right? So you've done the research, you know which shows you want to reach out to, you know who the contact person is, You've prepared a few bullet points of what it is you're going to talk about. So now you're actually going to reach out. Now, I recommend email. But depending on the show, they might have on their website somewhere listed how they want to be contacted. And there might be a form that you can fill out to be a guest. Maybe that's something that they have. But usually, typically, email is the best. So find the email of the host, the producer, whoever's in charge of booking guests, and reach out to them. Now, in this email, you are going to include obviously your name. So introduce yourself, give a little bit of a background. So maybe just a sentence of who you are. I would include in there something about your connection to that show. So if you've been listening for years, mention that. Mention that you love their show. You're an avid listener. You've listened to every single episode and just you've benefited so much that you are honored to even reach out to want to be a guest, right? Now, if you're reaching out to a show that you haven't been listening to, maybe you've never listened to, but you think would be a good fit, then at least try to personalize it. Listen to a few episodes so you can at least include some kind of commentary in the email that you're using to reach out to them. So say something like, I caught this episode where you talked about so-and-so. I thought it was really informative, right? So you're just going to personalize it somehow to let the recipient know that you know something about the show. So you're gonna introduce yourself, give some background, personalize it by mentioning their show and something you love about their show. Then you're gonna list your talking points, the ones that you prepared, right? So mention what it is that you would bring to their show. So as a guest, why should they have you on? Tell them, what are you gonna talk about? What do you have to offer? What's your expertise? In this email, along with telling them what it is that you're an expert in, let it be known that this is going to be good for their audience as well, that their audience members are going to benefit from listening to your interview. So not only are you an expert in employment law or immigration, let them know why this is something their audience needs to know. So you can say something like, with all the changes that are happening with immigration laws or all the new rules and laws that just passed that affect employers, that affect employees, it would be great for your audience, for your listeners, to be on top of the changes and be aware and be knowledgeable about all the changes that are happening, right? So make it seem like it's a win-win for everyone, not just a win for you. And then, if you've been on any other shows, if you've had any other media appearances, I would include that as well, because that gives you some credibility. That this podcast host isn't just taking a wild chance on you, right? Someone else has vetted you out. They can maybe watch or hear you somewhere else. So that would help as well. I know for me, when I get guests pitching me, reaching out to me through email, I can usually quickly tell which ones have listened to my show and which ones are reaching out for the very first time blindly, haven't done any research, and they just want to be on a show. And I obviously dismiss the latter. And for the ones that I actually follow through and I reach out and want and have them on the show, they've usually included something personal. They've included enough information for me to make a determination that this person would be great. And they've made an effort to personalize the email that they're reaching out with. Okay? So those are the 3 things to remember. Do your research, prepare some talking points, and then make your email personal and valuable and a win-win for everyone. So that is one way to take advantage of podcasts without actually launching one yourself. So if you need any help with your podcast, with being a guest, anything at all, and in the realm of podcasting or videos, go ahead and drop your comments in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to follow up with you guys. But I will catch you in the next video.